just rude and arrogant. I mean, you aren't able to talk to him throughout the course of a game. And it's like, how do you build that relationship with officials? You know, so, and it's not even that call. Like, it's just, you know, who he is on that floor. It's pretty frustrating. And I mean, and I'm probably gonna get hit, but honestly, I don't really say anything. I'm probably a pretty quiet guy to myself, but it's one of those things where you can't voice your opinion, you can't have a conversation with someone that's officiating the game, and then, you know, you're getting attacked. It's pretty sad.
I mean, I don't know what else to do. You know what I mean? Been met with the league with him before and all this stuff. I don't know what else to do.
All right, we're joined by FS1 NBA analyst Matt Barnes, and I'm glad you're here, Matt, because
I'm very interested to hear
really
that.
And if you step out of bounds, we're going to tee you up, man.
No, yeah, I can't get fined anymore for that.
you have so much experience dealing with refs, right? And when you hear these complaints, how much truth is there to what they have to say?
Oh, there's truth plus more. Scott Foster is one of the most arrogant, stare down his nose referees I've ever seen in my 15 years there.
Did he tee you up? Okay.
Plenty of times,
Yep.
plenty of times. Like with the Clippers with Chris. And it's unfortunate because you think as players, as long as you come respectful, you can talk and have that open dialogue.
Sure.
We're all men. You know, no one gets up in the morning saying, man, I can't go wait to see Scott Foster referee tonight. Like, they come to see James and Chris play. You know what I mean? So it's unfortunate that there's just some referees you can't talk to, and then if you voice your opinion, such as these guys, they're probably gonna get fined today. So it's kind of like a secret society. Like, some refs are bad, some refs take it personal, and if you speak up on it, you get dinged, which is unfortunate.
The other part is, and they had in 2016, right, a poll with players and coaches, and Scott Foster was voted the worst.
No question.
So and you just said
No
that
question.
when you come out and you don't even flinch or hesitate.
No.
And here's the problem. You can't have, referees have to be held accountable like everybody else. And I'm not saying you make a bad call and you get fired. That's not what we're talking about. But if GMs make bad decisions, they get fired. Players don't play well, they get fired. This is not like being a Supreme Court justice or you know, the Pope. I guess you get to keep your job, right? For no matter what. But other than that, there should be, like, after a while, when so many people are talking about a guy and not happy with his performance, I think you have to look at it as a league. No one's perfect. I don't think you're looking for somebody to be perfect. But there's an issue here. And last night's game, again, people come to see the players, not the referees. They just don't.
Here's the point of order to everything you just said. The reason he got voted the worst to me is not because he's actually the worst on making bad calls. He's actually, what's that?
I think it's his attitude.
It's
and the way-
style.
yeah,
It's
right,
the way, it's right. I don't think anybody says he's a bad referee. He just has a bad bedside manner, or whatever you want to call that way. His interactions, his ability to go back and forth with a player is non-existent because he will not take it. And it got to the point that Chris Paul asked for a meeting at the league office with Scott Foster, and they sat down in the same room and tried to air their grievances out. I'm not sure what Scott said because he doesn't say a whole lot to anybody. He just usually goes like this. And he doesn't do big ones. He just does little ones like, yeah, you're gone. And Chris was asking for it at the end of the game. He said, yeah, okay.
Yeah, give it to me,
another
right.
one. So the point is, back in the day, Joey Crawford, you'll remember, got into it with my San Antonio Spurs and Tim Duncan, and it just exploded. And there was one fateful game in which Tim Duncan was on the bench, near the end of the bench, laughing about some joke somebody had made on the bench. And Joey Crawford thought he was laughing at Joey Crawford. So he tees him up and tosses him. And Joey Crawford got indefinitely suspended for that. The problem here is that Scott Foster is not viewed as a bad referee, so it's difficult for the league to say, okay, let's not put him on Rockets games, because if you open that Pandora's box,
you can't do that.
okay,
Right.
then everybody's going to say, every team's got some ref they think has it in for that team. Does he have it in for the Rockets? I don't know. Did he make any bad calls last night? I didn't see a bad call. I saw Courtney Kirkland make one on James Harden. It was 6:03 left in the game. Rockets are up 3. If we could see that play one more time, please. And James is just dribbling the ball up the floor, and Rondo's kind of hounding him up the floor.
There we go.
And all of a sudden, Rondo kind of goes for a steal and then grabs
That's
his
a
nose.
foul?
Yeah, and it was like a flop in effect because there's nothing there. And Rondo's grabbing his nose like, oh, he hit me in the nose. No, he didn't. There was no contact. That's foul number 4 that led to 5 and 6, and they were both charges.
I can remember a playoff, during the playoff run when the Pistons, when Larry Brown was coach, and we talk about officials. And I remember Larry Brown, before the game, we're in his office, and he says, who's refereeing? He looked at the list. He goes, we're losing tonight. And I'm just like, what?
No, that's Larry Brown.
A lot of people do that, though.
He said, I'm 1-11 in games where this guy referees. We will not win. Do you know what happened that night? They lost. And I said to myself, really?
That's
To
something.
you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
No. That's something in pregame. You know, we always who's reffing. You know what I mean? You want to know who's reffing because there's certain guys you just have to watch out for. Like I said, it's unfortunate. We go to play, and you know, being a referee is tough. You know, you're refereeing 10 of the most incredible athletes on the planet. The game is high speed, especially with the pace of the game now. So you know, it's tough. But like you said, I think Skip hit it on the head. It's not so much the calls here and there. It's the way his arrogance and the way he carries himself. Like you can't say anything. You can't look at him. You can't.
Beyond reproach.
Yeah, exactly. And it's unfortunate. Like I said, it's a high-paced game. As a player, emotions are always involved. Sure. You know what I mean? So our delivery may not be, you know, as calm as it needs to be. But I think as a ref, you need to understand that. You know what I mean? Like in the 2-minute report, okay, he made a mistake here. What does that really do? You know what I mean? Like in football, you know, they missed the call. Like, what is that going to do? It still makes us lose. We don't go to the playoffs. They don't go to the Super Bowl. So something needs to be done with him because he's been his arrogance has cost a lot of guys money and cost a lot of teams games. I'm not saying it happened last night, but just overall, Scott Foster is a constant name you hear when it comes to something like this.
Do you also see like where or get the feeling sometimes the league has it in they want the Lakers to make the playoffs, and right away, come on, Harden gets 3 fouls in 3.5 minutes in the first quarter.
4 offensive fouls in one game. I've never seen. But I kind of see.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you feel like.
But I kind of see it's ironic too because James always gets calls.
Right.
He gets more
Always gets called.
So, but what happened last night?
So a part of me is like, okay, you know, you finally don't get this.
Now, to the bottom line. I have heard this for years, back to my days covering Dick Motta. He did the same thing. He'd look, oh, we're going to lose tonight. Okay, why plant that seed? I believe the Rockets walked on the floor last night saying, it's going to happen.
The Lakers.
Well, we're going to get it. He's going to take
do
it
it
out
to
on
us,
us. Yeah,
right.
he'll get us.
Right.
They're up 19 mid-third quarter, and I think they're looking for ghosts. You know, they're looking for non-calls or bad calls, and all of a sudden, they completely unravel. And again, it looks suspicious because they go the last 20 minutes of the game with no free throws.
Now, you played 15 years. Can you remember a game where 17-0 the last 20 and no free throws for the other team?
No free throws.
I have a different look on this, but you know, I still want to do some work with the NBA. So you know, but like you said, it's unfortunate. You never really want to blame the game on the refs. You know, I mean, give credit to LeBron and these guys for coming out and realizing, you know, it's hard to bet against LeBron. You know, when the world is doubting him. You know, he's someone that's going to take that personally. And you saw he went out and took 23 shots, and that's very uncharacteristic of LeBron.
I agree.
You know what I mean? But he's like, if you guys aren't going to do it, I'm going to do it, but some way it's going to get done. So you definitely want to give credit to the Lakers, but Scott Foster has always just been one of those guys, when you see him, you're like, ah.
Okay? But the reason I can't ultimately respect the Rockets or trust the Rockets in the postseason is they live and die on the whistle. James needs the whistle because, and again, I give him high marks because he makes his free throws. He almost makes 90% of, and he shot 81 more free throws than anybody else in the league. So how many times do we hear complaints about he just does this or goes up and he's going to get the 4-point, you know,
Right,
ball,
but they
right?
call those during the regular season,
Okay.
and then you get to the playoffs, and they don't call them.
They don't call them.
So then that alters everything, right?
And again, I'm sure because you played with Chris, and I respect Chris on some levels, but when he loses it, man, he just loses it. He goes completely over the edge. He comes completely apart.
Right.
He's got it's like just a bad temper that just runs amok, you know?
Right.
And once he decided Scott Foster was going to get him last night, he just came completely apart.
Feel it.
Well, okay, because with 33 seconds left, it was still a game. They were only down 4, and he just,
But it's unfortunate. To Chris's credit, and Chris is someone who got on the refs, you know, as I did. But when you, like I said, there's such a history with those two, and when you see it happening on national TV in LA against the Lakers, you're just like, not again. You know what I mean? So he really probably wanted to say more to him, but you know, he's saying anything that's going to get him teed. And, you know, they lost the game. So, like I said, I definitely think it's something the NBA needs to look into somehow, some way. But like you said, you can't, you just can't ref Rocket games because that's going to open Pandora's box for a lot of different teams.
yeah. So I guess the sit down with Chris didn't do much good.
Not at
No.
all.
Not. No, it seems to be a problem that they are going to figure out because you don't want this to keep coming up. Matt, you're going to stick around with us. Talk a bit more about Zion Williamson.
it.
Your thoughts if he should shut it down for the rest of the season. We'll just